I was just going to ask you about a couple of things. First of all, as a historian, the idea of assigning freedom of speech or issues like that to memes. First, I'm absolutely shocked by how different disciplines do not impact on each other. And in this morning's discussion, we had the discussion of for instance, the Industrial Revolution as being a sort of genetic issue, which, as a historian, I'm teaching that, and I need to know these kind of things, and it's fairly shocking that there's not this discussion back and forth between different scientists and different disciplines, and the whole discussion of memes is very interesting. Freedom of speech, people died for that. You know, this is a historical moment. This is something, you know, one of the highest aspects of human agency, and being reduced to a sort of an infection is kind of very bizarre from a historical point of view. And I do think it in the spirit of the great debate, it's fantastic that we're all talking to each other about this stuff, because I've certainly learned a lot. Just one critical aspect. You use the term common sense, and I'm not sure whether that makes any more, is any better than memes, and we can certainly go through that fairly critically, and I just wonder what you have to say about that.
I hope this is not a non-point. As I understand it, in certain parts of the Earth's surface you can find very large blocks of stone which were moved there by human agency, human agents. So presumably, if you're a memist, you'd say that there must have one time been a stone-shifting meme. Now, the descendants of the stone shifters have left us their genes. What happened to the memes? Is this bad news for the meme?
They rebelled, I think.
Well, I just want to say,
the same men can't multitask.
Genes die out of gene pools as well. It was obviously a meme that didn't survive forever. It wasn't well adapted. But I was going to ask, banally actually, that it's all very well to talk of, as a lot of your talk did, concentrate on the gap between animals and humans. You went into, therefore you must think it very, very important that there is this, as you say, Tom, obvious gap. But there's, I would have thought, an equally obvious gap between the earthworm and the Labrador. So why do you choose to put this one big black line between humans and other animals, and not say between Labradors and other animals?
Just when I thought it was safe to go out. It seems to me it's a different kind of difference. Whereas Labradors and earthworms' behaviour can be assimilated into the causal nexus much more intimately and tightly. In the case of human beings, we are independent of points of departure, that we approach nature from outside, partly outside, of course, we're pieces of nature ourselves. So it's a different kind of difference. Special difference. That's my position. I can see massive dissatisfaction with that answer. Clearly the white wine and further discussion are waiting. But I think, I mean, the point you made, I think it isn't beyond a point, it's a good point. I mean, it raised the question of why do memes die out? And that really itself depends on the whole lot of memes, because if they were sort of autonomous, self-replicating entities, they would only die out if the vehicles for keeping them going died out. Exactly. So long as they weren't causing any harm, or needed, as long as they were useful for group selection or inclusive fitness, they should remain forever. The reason they died out is people had different ideas about the way the world worked and what's a good thing to do, and you know. And I also like the point you said, is there a stone-shifting meme? And that's exactly the problem with modules. You know, you have mating modules. Should that be broken down to going to a disco module? Should it be breaking down to buying a bus ticket to go to a disco module? You know, once you start chopping things in modules and memes, you get into all sorts of nonsense, because they don't have an intrinsic unity. They have to have a stipulated unity. Common sense is a good one, and I have to agree. I mean, as Lewis Walcott once said, all advance in science has been based on the overturning of common sense, you know, the unnatural nature of science. Perhaps I should say ordinary observation, and rather than common sense, because what happens is, eventually, under the pressure of seeing what's in front of their nose, memologists will eventually reconstruct what we see in ordinary observation. I think that's what I was saying, rather than common sense. Still a bit vulnerable term, but I don't think the memologists are going to help us to wake out of common sense or to wake out of ordinary observation. We just sort of, you know, when we wake out of memes, we find ourselves back to the straightforward observations. Yeah?
Hang on, have I dealt with all through that?
I think that's
Yeah,
all.
yeah.
Yes. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.